everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of the Wooden Things and Stuff podcast. I'm your host, Mike Davies of Mike's Wooden Things and Stuff. And in this episode, I sit down with high school student Lily Adkins-White in Southern Ontario. And we talk about how she got into woodworking, what it was like for her to take high school woodworking courses virtually during a pandemic. She pulls out one of her famous Lily's hypothetical questions that she's been a long time fan of my YouTube live show, and she's become famous over there for her random hypothetical questions. So she whips one of those out on me, and we have a nice casual conversation about what she thinks her future might be in woodworking, and yeah, it's a good time. I had a blast talking to her, and I hope you enjoy it as well. First, I'd like to, again, thank my patrons over at patreon.com/woodenthingsandstuff for chipping in a few bucks here and there to help me keep going, both here on the podcast and on my YouTube channel, which you can find at youtube.com/woodenthingsandstuff, which is also where you can find the video version of this podcast if you're listening to this on a podcast app and you'd rather watch it in video form, along with a couple hundred other pieces of woodworking content that I've got over there. And so let's just hop right into my conversation with Lily Adkins-White. We'll find out what she's been up to and what she's hoping to get up to in the future. She may have talked herself out of becoming a doctor in order to become a woodworker. So stick around and find out how that decision came about. Let's just hop right into it. I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so welcome to the show, Lily Adkins-White. How are you, my friend?
I am fantastic.
And
doing well.
Why am I talking to you? What's going on? Who are you and what are you all about?
Well, I have been watching your videos for quite a bit, and I got into woodworking in the past few years. So that's kind of my hobby right now, and I'm hoping to go into that as well in the future once I get out of school and all that.
So you're a young pup still. You're ready to graduate any one of these days here? Or?
Pretty much. I just turned 18 last month. So this is I'm in grade 12. So final year.
Nice. And so
yeah.
What's the plan going forward in terms of are you thinking go on to like tech school or university or what?
My plans have changed a little bit. I'm likely taking a gap year just kind of to finalize exactly what I wanted to do. I had been interested in going to Mohawk, which is a school in Ontario, mainly a trade school, to see about like home renovation and stuff like that. But from talking to other people, I've seen stuff about more like fine woodworking and cabinetry that I found quite interesting. So don't really know fully, but something in the range of woodworking is what I want to do.
Are you eligible to go down to the States? I'm not allowed in the States. Are you allowed in the States?
I don't. That's a good question. I don't really know the answer to.
Well, have you ever been convicted of a federal criminal offense?
I have not. No, not yet.
Okay. That's a good start.
Yes.
I'm not going to get into why I'm not allowed in the States. I was just thinking like maybe someplace like the College of the Redwoods or somewhere down in the northeastern U.S.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's a Krenov school. The Krenov school I think is on the West Coast, but I know up in New England there's a couple of good woodworking schools that you might want to look into if you're thinking about seriously struggling to make a living doing woodworking.
Yeah. Well, I've never heard of those schools before, so I'll take a look into it.
Okay, I'll see if I can find some links for you. I know that there's some 2 and 3 year programs that have very, very good reviews in terms of the people that they've churned out and stuff like that. But you don't have to be in a hurry. I mean, I didn't graduate. Well, I went to university straight out of high school, but then I dropped out after 2 years and then went back 2 years later and then dropped out again. And like, I finally ended up getting my first degree at 30.
Okay.
And then I got my second degree at 31, 32-ish. I don't remember anymore, but yeah, there's no rush. There's no rush. Figure it out. I mean,
Exactly.
I figured it out while I was doing it, which is an expensive way to do that. Um,
Yes.
changing majors 4 times along the way is a lot of wasted credits, but at the same time, I wouldn't say that that's the wrong way of doing it either, because I know a little bit about a lot of things now.
I no kidding.
And so you found my show during like quarantine COVID times, didn't you? I think I
Yes.
got a message, I think, from your mom that was
Could
like,
have
I
been.
just want to, thank you for like helping bring my family together while we're bored and in lockdown, kind of a thing.
Yeah. Well, we had when COVID hit was when I was in grade 10. And just prior to that was the first time I was ever really introduced to woodworking, it was complete kind of flip into, I was initially wanting to go to medical school to be a doctor. And then I had biology and wood shop at the same time. And I realized I hated biology.
Yeah,
So
that's not good for doctors.
and no, it wasn't very good. And so my teacher, he was the best teacher I've ever had. And I just really kind of clicked with the subject and that. So I wanted to get into woodworking from there. And then I think it was the following year that I finally kind of bought a bunch of tools, made my own shop in my garage. And I had initially started just with some charcuterie boards I was making for a manager that used to work at my work. That makes total sense. And
Sure.
yours was the first video we actually started your how to make charcuterie boards video, and we just kind of liked the way you worked through everything. And then from there we realized you had a live show, and then now we're here.
And now we're here talking on the internet. And
Exactly.
I honestly, I think at this point, you might be the star of my live show. Like, I think more people actually tune in to talk to you than they do to talk to me. I'm not
I
sure.
mean, I figured I've got a cult following now with my Pepsi versus Coke debate.
Yes, yes, you do. And the Lily hypothetical question has actually come up. The subject of the Lily hypothetical question has actually come up on Australian woodworking shows at this point. I don't know if you know that.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Wow, that's hilarious.
Yeah, I was watching J&D Creations live show about I don't know, 6 8 months ago. And somebody said, I was in the chat room and somebody said, "Hey Mike, you should ask Jackson LHQ." And 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 he went off for a little while, like, "What is an LHQ? What is this? I don't, you guys need to fill me in on what this is." And so we had a nice little discussion
That's
about
awesome.
because
That is funny.
that's kind of, yeah, your claim to fame. Do you have an LHQ for me right now? Like,
I do.
we could do one on the podcast. Okay,
I
what do you
do.
got?
I have them all written down so I don't forget them.
Oh, you
Okay.
write them down. Do you like sit around in your spare time and like come up with a list of these
Just
things?
ponder. No, it was actually when I initially kind of the first question I remember we did was about what would be your 3 gas station road trip snacks.
Yes.
And it was one day my dad and I were driving into work, and there was just on the radio, this guy had this random question. And both him and I, the entire way in, had this long conversation about gas station snacks. And I was like, this is just a great question. So that was why. But anytime I'm on the radio, if we hear questions, I start a notes list of just random questions just to have prepped.
Just for Saturday nights. Okay, cool.
Exactly.
What do you got for me today? This is going to be fun.
So, my hypothetical question is if animals could talk or at least communicate in a basic, relatively intelligent manner, how do you think the world would change?
What? These are supposed to be like, oh man.
Or at least, what do you think would happen? I've always said I want to know if my dog could talk, what she'd sound like.
Okay, so is this all animals can communicate in some way with both each other and humans?
Sure.
Okay.
We'll go with that.
So like I could be walking down the street and somebody's walking their dog and I could talk to both the person and the dog.
Correct. You could even see pigeons in the middle of the street and you can talk to the pigeons.
Oh, I want this kind of world. This sounds like a fantastic place to live. It would be a lot louder, probably. Well, maybe not, because animals make noise anyway, and they are probably saying things. I don't.
I think so.
But if we could understand them, how would the world change? I think I want to. I want to put on my like optimism hat and say that I think we would. I think humans would be less damaging to the
Yeah,
planet if we actually could communicate with the things that we're harming by doing what we're doing. Um, but I'm not entirely confident in that. I don't know. There's like
when you face reality.
people are pretty crappy. And I don't know that knowing, like being able to communicate, because we know already that what we're doing is terrible for the planet and we don't not do that. So I don't, geez, wow.
I think I can see the optimism thing because, like, at least with animals, you kind of, yes, you know you're doing a bad thing, but it's not like you're communicating with them. I think a lot of people would get new animal best friends instead of people friends.
I like more people than already do that because I know a lot of people that have animal best friends.
That is true, but more of a valid reason to have animal best friends.
Are you saying that the people who have animal best friends have them for not a valid reason? Is that what you're saying right now?
No, no. I'm gonna backtrack on that statement.
Backpedal.
It would be, I think it would just be there'd be more of a prominent animal best friend type of thing in terms of like you could go on like a subway and just be like chatting with your dog or meet a random pigeon on the street and be like, oh hey, you know.
Do you think if we see again, I want to be optimistic and go like, yay, go humans. But I also feel like if we could talk to animals and they could talk to us, we would find ways to manipulate them.
I
And
can see that.
and we would make them get jobs and stuff. Like I don't I want this to be a beautiful, wonderful, like kumbaya kind of world. But I'm now I'm picturing like a really terrible place where we like essentially enslave the animal kingdom.
Can go both ways. We'll hope for the good
Oh,
one.
this is a really good question because do what do I actually think? See, those are kind of two polar opposites. It would probably land somewhere in the middle. I think I don't think much would change actually if it came right down to it. I think we would just sort of roll into animals being part of our system, I guess.
Yeah. We'd find once you get the initial kablamo, wow, animals can talk,
Yeah.
and then you get used to it. It's just everyday life.
Yeah, like our children's children would just that would just be normal for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. This is a really good question. If anybody out there in the internet world has a theory on what would the world be like if animals could communicate with both each other and us and vice versa, let me know by email. Send me an email or better yet, record yourself answering the LHQ and email that file to woodenthingsandstuff@gmail.com. And we'll do a follow-up episode on other people's answers to this question because that's fantastic. Would we end up enslaving the animal kingdom and making it do our bidding? Or would we live in total harmony and stop wrecking the planet? Or
Could go
somewhere in
both
between.
ways.
Or somewhere in between. Let me know what
Yeah.
you think. That's a good question. We've had a few good questions on what was it? Oh, there was like a gross one.
Deli meat sheets.
Deli meat sheets. This is if you could if you could only use sheets on your bed that were made out of a deli meat, which deli meat would you pick? These are the types excuse me, these are the types of things that we talk about on my very serious Saturday night woodworking show.
Absolutely. Only intellectual conversations.
And also condiment fingers.
Yes. What condiments would you?
If you could your fingers disperse 5 different condiments and those are the only condiments that you can eat for the rest of your life. What are you going to pick? These are It's the important stuff that we talk about.
Exactly. If you were really in that type of situation, we'd be the only ones prepared.
Right? And we're also at the end of the world, we're going to be the ones who have thought of these things and be able to,
Exactly.
yeah.
People will be looking for bedding, and we're going to be the ones with just a bunch of processed meats, and we can figure it out because we've already established.
I have a problem with this scenario though, because if it's like the apocalypse and the world is ending, I think we want to not use our meat resources for bed
For
sheets.
food. That is very true. That is
Yeah.
a valid point.
So I think it all falls apart.
Yeah, that's true, but we'll figure it out once we get to that point.
Who's why are we two of the last remaining people?
Yeah, that's very true. I don't think I'd last very long in in an apocalyptic setting.
Wasn't that also a question? Wasn't there a question about like the zombie apocalypse? What are you
Yes.
picking for your weapon or
What
something?
I think it was something about like what tool would you pick or
Well, yes.
something.
What woodworking tool would you use as your only weapon
Yes.
in the zombie apocalypse or something like that?
Yes, I
And
do
then
recall that.
we had a fight over whether an axe is a woodworking tool.
That is true.
And
I
I
don't think
I submit that an axe is a woodworking tool because people who make chairs and stuff need to rive their material.
that's true. I think it could be considered one, just not a traditional shop setting type of woodworking tool, but I think it would be considered.
But people have shop hatchets and stuff to like rive out like dowel stock.
That's true. That is very true. I'd say it would be. Yeah.
Yeah. another important valuable conversation for
Exactly.
the listeners of Wooden Things and Stuff. What is it that now that you've gotten into woodworking just in the past couple of years, do you have a certain thing or set of things that you like making in terms of projects or stuff
I
that
mean,
you've made that you're really proud of maybe? Or
I've started, I think, what did I do? I mean, in school, before I started my own kind of tool stuff here, like our class project was like a Muskoka chair, and that's sitting in our hallway, and just some other kind of random kind of things that we've made. I started out making a bunch of just charcuterie boards with just like some laminated stock. It wasn't something that had really too much in-depth skill to it, and I've made a bunch of those. So those ones are I'd say would be my favorite in a sense that I kind of just know how to do them. But this year actually I'd say was, so my grade 12 class, which is what I'm in right now, I made a chevron pattern charcuterie board, which I was quite proud of. Could, of course, just me being perfectionist, I can nitpick and find all the imperfections in it, but
we all can.
Otherwise I was fairly proud of it. And right now I'm actually doing I was wanting to try to do lathe work just because I'd never tried it before, so why not? And I just finished up a rolling pin that has like this kind of circular, it almost looks like if you stacked like donuts. Just, I don't know how to describe it, but it's a rolling pin, and at the end it has this tapering kind of circle thing.
Okay.
And I have a bit of a difficulty going like, okay, I could see from this side and making sure everything's symmetrical. But for the most part, I'd say it was very symmetrical, and I'm very proud of that.
Nice. Well, you've got a fantastic lathe instructor at your disposal.
I do, yes.
I think one of the most common things I say on my show is something along the lines of like, don't come here to learn how to do this. Because I am by no means a woodworking instructor. If people can take stuff away from what I'm doing, that's great. But I would never claim to be an instructor at this, because most of the time I'm just figuring my way out. Like,
that's what you got to do with most of it anyways.
I think that's why people who like woodworking is the problem solving aspect of it.
Yes and no. I've honestly found myself I've always been more kind of, I say math oriented, but it's mainly like I never found myself to be very like creative in like an artsy kind of type. I'm like very kind of 1 + 2 = 3. And so one thing I've found is a lot of my skills have developed in terms of problem solving. And just, I notice myself, I'm like, I still have to get to a point where I realize that there's so many possibilities. There's like an endless realm of things that I can do. And it's like at a point where I'm like, I don't know what to do just because there's so many different options. And it's just, there's so much creative freedom with it. And it's, in a way, I'm like kind of intimidated by it, but also like, let's go, let's try new things.
Yeah. Do you ever find yourself like, because there's so many, like what you want to make or what you want to try, that it sort of paralyzes you and you don't end up doing anything? Or
Pretty much, yes. Because my mom, like, as soon as I started getting into it, she starts getting the list of things. Okay, I want this in my house. I
yeah.
want you to build this and the shelves and this thing. And there's a lot of ideas of things that I want to do. And then, like, yeah, I have a lot of things right now I want to do. It's just getting to figure out what I need to do. And also, it's really cold and my garage is not insulated. So it's very cold in there as well. So it doesn't make it as enjoyable as it could be. But it's, even from learning from my teacher, like, I was, for right before Christmas, I was building my dad. He got into like beard oils and stuff like that. So I was making him a little like a display thing, do some holes just so he can have his oils in that displayed. But I was doing a little elevated part where I was gonna put like dowels and so he can hold his brushes. But I was just going to do like a straight, just kind of like a line. I didn't even think, my teacher mentioned, oh, why don't you do like a design and a pattern? And I didn't even think I could do that, just because what, you can do anything. And I just, it's so overwhelming at times that I just am like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Wait. I could do what now? Yeah.
So, sorry, what did you say?
Well, and a lot of times it just, I find for myself anyway, like I get something in my head that I want to make. And then as I'm making it, I figure out what exact, like, I can have the general concept of, say, I'm looking at the lathe tool cab rack. And, I thought, okay, something about this big that hangs on the wall that holds my lathe tools. Let's start cutting wood and I'll figure it out along the way, kind of a thing. And that's how my design process works. I know there are some people out there that need to draw plans and
that is exactly me.
You're the analytic.
I'm like, I have like grid paper with like a scale. I need to have everything. I need to know the dimensions and everything. I have a full step process for start to finish before I even start getting anything cut.
You know what you should do? You should learn SketchUp and then teach me SketchUp. Because I do not get it. I just, my fingers do not want to button that way. I don't know what it is. But I don't know. I don't, like I said, I don't, for making things, I don't necessarily want plans, but in order to pass the information along to other people, I get a lot of people that I like ask, hey, do you have plans for this? I'd love to, print off a set of plans. And I go like, well, no, because I didn't design it really, even. I just kind of made it up as I went.
Yeah, I'm sure, I think in the future, as I get more into my own like kind of hobby type stuff, I'd be less of kind of plan oriented. I've just found from like school and assignments, a lot of it's like, okay, you need to cut this to this dimension. I need to get a plan. And like, even I had to do wood shop during COVID, which was fully online, which sucked so much. It was pretty much telling my teacher, okay, go to the material rack, take out a piece of material, bring it over to the miter saw. Now, when you're doing this, you're going to put your hand here, do this. You're going to be watching out for this. Very, very meticulous detail into it. So I think I got in the habit of just pre-planning everything. Everything's written out. I know exactly what steps to go to. So it's kind of, in a way, kind of breaking the habit, but also kind of keeping it in a way. I'm in a standstill right now in terms of my creative process.
Well, I mean, I just looked up, I on my phone here while we were talking. Apologies if it looked like I was distracted, but I had to look up what a Muskoka chair is.
Oh.
And it's like an Adirondack chair, kind of.
It is, yes. It is.
Okay. Is that like a Canadian version of the Adirondack chair? I don't know this chair.
To be honest with you, I couldn't tell the difference between the two. I've
Okay.
heard Muskoka chair. I sell some at work that are called Adirondack chairs. Couldn't tell you the difference.
Okay, good to know. Because I was like, I've never heard of this chair. I have to look this up and see what she made.
Yes, it's an Adirondack chair.
Okay, cool, cool. Um, so do you have a next major project that you like you said mom wants this, mom wants that. Do you have another piece of furniture planned for the house?
Well, we had initially wanted we just have kind of a basic, just square room for a living room. So we wanted to do kind of like a bump out wall to put like an electric fireplace, a mantle, and then like TV on that. And we had done as an assignment a lot of framing, just knowing the basic layout for any kind of wall framing. So I thought, why not practice? So we were going to do that. Right now, I want to make a kneeling chair. I've seen
Mm.
pictures of them, and I'm like, at first, I'm like, that doesn't look comfortable at all. But then also, I'm like, in a way, it also kind of does. And I want to start to make it. I just need to find the videos to figure out how to make it.
Yeah, I've seen those and I did the same thing. I was like, how could you possibly sit like that? But then I saw somebody actually sitting in it
Hmm.
and I went, oh, that actually looks like it would probably be really at least good for you.
It is, yeah. I just noticed myself, like, I mean, I would have to sit for 3 hours on end listening to math teachers babble on, and I just noticed myself, like, I'd go in the weirdest positions on my chairs just because I'm not comfortable, and I'm like, that one chair could really change the game. I feel I just want to try it. Might
Okay.
as well.
Well, first of all, your math teachers are not just babbling on, okay? They're trying to teach you something.
That's true, but sometimes it does sound like a lot of babbling.
It's true. It's true. But you just don't be so flippant about your teachers are trying to like, oh, my teacher's just babbling and I'm all like trying to find a comfortable place to sit. Like
It got to the point, like, I'm love my teachers. Teachers are great, but sometimes I just I don't want to hear about graphs anymore.
yeah.
I just graphs, I just don't want them.
I can't imagine. Well, I have a woodworking high school woodworking teacher planned for the show.
Hmm.
And I'm interested to hear from him in terms of well, what the last couple of years have been like because I cannot imagine online woodworking like it don't does everybody need to have like a shop full of tools to do woodworking class at home?
It
Like that's not realistic.
No, it was um I at least just from talking to my teacher, it was not fun for anybody. A lot of people, the way my teacher kind of did it was you have to initiate, you'd have your project that you'd want to do, but you have to initiate, okay, I want to go. I want to do this. I have a plan. Well, a lot of kids just kind of chilled back and was like, eh. And so it was really difficult trying to get just people to talk in general. We were lucky enough that he had made up at the time we were doing like a framed kind of model garage with like to scale 2x4s. So he had made up a bunch of kits for everyone just to make these these framed garages. And all you really needed for it was like some glue and an X-Acto knife. And I was lucky, at least having my shop, that I was able to use a bit more and I found it a bit easier. But it was it wasn't very enjoyable because you didn't get you got yes you got just a lot of repetitive skills in terms of like knowing tool safety procedures. I say skills, it's not really
I
skills.
just for the audio listeners, when she accentuated the word skills, yes, she was doing air quotes.
Yes, I said like it's we weren't actually really able to learn anything because you couldn't get a feel for anything. You couldn't know, okay, I should be if I feel this while cutting on a table saw, I should stop cutting on a table saw, or like you just don't get to actually physically do it, and it
Mhm.
was just not as enjoyable as it could be.
Did you do a lot of like woodworking theory or like history, or like was there any like sort of academic side of this in terms of,
There was partially.
because
Um,
I would be stoked to do a course on like the history of woodworking and learn about different furniture styles through the ages, or like, you know, prominent
yeah,
woodworkers and what they brought to the world and stuff like that. I don't know, but
we did a lot of even in school and also during online, we'd have like sheets to do before class started that was like, okay, here's a photo, or like it was like a printout of a tape measure, and you just had to do repetitive learning how to read a tape measure. And it was like calculating board footage and costing for it. We did like rafter calculations. That was kind of stuff. It would take 20 minutes. It wasn't a lot of theory and stuff like that. It was mostly just you'd find a video on YouTube, you'd make a plan for it and incorporate it just a bit more details in terms of like safety procedures, and then you just tell him what to do. His classic line was, he's the muscle, we're the brain. We just tell him what to do, and hopefully we don't cut one of his fingers off. So
well, he's not actually just muscle. Like he does actually have he's not going to let you cut one of his fingers off by putting his hand
yeah,
in the wrong place.
that is very true, but there was a lot of there was a lot of secondary lockouts that were forgotten to be engaged, and then a lot of people, and it was a lot of, what idiot forgot to engage secondary, and it was just it was an interesting time.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I can't imagine. Like yeah, well, I was a late bloomer in terms of my interest in this, but I'm just trying to picture a high school shop class where you aren't pushing stuff through the saws.
Exactly, that's the anytime teachers are like, what was it like being in online school and stuff like that, and I said, well, I had woodshop fully online, and that's the one that I always recognize the face when they always do the confused thing, and I always say, how the hell did you do that?
Mm-hmm. Wow.
It was, yeah, it was an interesting time. It wasn't very enjoyable to say that, but I mean, what can you do?
No, that's like everything in this world is about just putting one foot in front of the other and doing the best you
Hmm.
can with what you've got, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah. What's Lily's random recommendation? I like asking people to randomly recommend something, whether it's
Hmm.
I have a feeling that you're going to go with some sort of food product, but uh Tyler's was a podcast. I did a recording with my friend Brad Ruff the other day, and his was what did he say? I think his was a tool of some type, but it can be anything: a YouTube channel, a podcast, a food item, uh,
Hmm.
a tool, a something you would like for other people to know is awesome.
I have two that I need to mention.
Okay.
One, I have recently discovered a band, Greta Van Fleet,
Yes.
and absolutely love them. It's one I was obsessed with Queen for the longest time, and I've never had another artist that I start listening to them and I'm like, okay, and then I find another song and I love it just the same. Find another one, love it just the same. Just an amazing band all around, and the lead singer's voice is insane.
Yes, it is.
And the second one, I'd say, this one is mainly for my mom because she's obsessed with them right now, is if you go to Dollarama, um, they have these freeze-dried strawberries. Don't know if they'd have them in your area, but they're these freeze-dried strawberries and they're highly addictive.
So, okay, hold on. Your random recommendations for this week are Greta Van Fleet and freeze dried strawberries.
Correct. Yes, it is.
Okay, I'm
Yes.
I'm going to tell you what. Next time I'm at the dollar store, I'm going to check. Is it just like Dollarama is the chain that has these things? If any dollar
I
store is going to
think
have them.
so.
Okay.
I think so. I haven't seen any at, like, I don't go to Dollar Tree very often, but they're right. If you go in the food section, there's a section with like the nuts and like the dried fruit that no one usually really goes to. It's right in there. And I mean, there's they're just delicious. And you don't think that, you're like, oh, they're just strawberries, but no. Highly recommend.
Are they like a strawberry raisin? Like, are they like?
This makes it kind of sound gross, but it's kind of like the text, like kind of like styrofoam, but
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. You're
they're
selling me
like
on these things.
yeah, it's not, it doesn't taste like styrofoam, but like it's like styrofoam in a way. There's some that are super tart, some that are sweet, but I've never had something like them before, and they're just delicious. They have freeze-dried apples as well. They're not super great, but the freeze-dried strawberries from Dollarama are delicious.
I am gonna go to Dollarama the next time I'm there. I'm gonna remember. Well, actually, no. This is what's gonna happen. I'm gonna be in Dollarama, and I'm gonna be like, "Oh, Lily told me I need something in here. What did she say that I need?" And I'll just wander around aimlessly, and then
And then you'll remember once you get home.
no, then I'll remember that I said this sentence right here that I'm saying right now.
Yes.
And at the end of this sentence, I said freeze-dried strawberries. And that's how I'm going to remember.
Works great.
Okay. I don't know if I have one. My random recommendation? Okay. My random recommendation for this episode is you need a new travel mug. Whoever is listening to this, you need a new travel mug. Yours is gross, and it's not getting clean anymore, and you need to go buy a new travel mug.
Mm-hmm.
I was in Costco a few days ago, and they had new 2-packs of the Contigos. Do you know Contigos?
Yes. Yes.
And a wife says to me, "Do we need new Contigos?" And I said, "Yes, we always need new Contigos. Contigos, just like they go bad. I can't even really.
I know it. Yes, they do.
Like the mechanisms inside the lid, I'm sure they never get totally clean, and then over time, they just like you need a new one.
Yes.
Yeah. And
yes,
also
for Chris, yeah.
And also new socks, because new socks are fantastic.
You can't go wrong with a new pair of socks. It's the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, it is. I think we had this talk on the live show one night too.
We did a few times.
New socks, new pillowcases on a new pillow.
You get all it, and if you're enjoying a hot beverage and a new travel mug, you've hit all the points right there.
Okay, there it is. I'm gonna go get a new pillow and a new pillowcase to put on my new pillow. I'm gonna put on new socks and drink a nice latte. Nope. Mocha.
Wow, you're getting fancy.
Yeah, I'm French vanilla cappuccino is what I'm going to drink out of my new Contigo coffee cup.
You're getting everything right there. That's just amazing. Best feeling in the world's right there.
And my bed is not going to be covered in deli meat sheets when I do this.
No, preferably not. I would not. That's not the most ideal comfort level, is deli meat sheets.
All right. Well, do we have anything else that we need to talk about? I don't. What's your favorite tool in the wood shop?
I get weird reactions to this. I say the jointer is my favorite. Main reason is because I find if you're dressing your own material and like you got a nice piece of walnut, you can't really tell what it looks like the wood grain and stuff like that. Once you run it through the jointer, you get to see just how beautiful it is.
This is a good point. And it's also, I think the jointer is probably the most integral step in the milling process.
1000%. I had initially bought just a planer, and I'm like, oh, I know what I'll do is I'll just use the tiny electric hand plane to get the face of it flat and the edge. Never do that ever. I was standing there yelling at this stupid hand plane because I couldn't get my material flat. I planed one side a little too much, and then it was just wobbly. So yes, jointer 100% is most important.
And I don't know that I ever heard somebody say that it's their favorite tool, but your justification for that is solid.
It's either that or a miter saw. I have my miter saw is the big DeWalt one. And my only reasoning is I feel it makes me feel cool when I use it. That's my only reasoning for it.
Cool in what way? Like cool as in not a nerd, or I don't understand.
Cool as in Yeah, I do woodworking. Like I just think woodworking is a cool thing to do.
Okay.
And I just feel like also I don't know. I don't know. I just it makes me feel like I look cool. I don't know what else it is.
I well, I'll tell you this right now. I've never seen you use that miter saw, but I guarantee you that when you use that table saw, you look cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't.
Garage doors always open. You got to have a crowd.
I sold my miter saw because I never used it, but the miter saw is what got me into woodworking. It was my first woodworking tool was a miter saw, and I got it to make painting panels. Just cut like 1x2s at a 45-degree angle to make boxes to put a piece of plywood on to paint on. And the miter saw is the reason that I got into woodworking. But then once I got to a certain point in woodworking, my miter saw just got in the way and I never used it. So I sold it.
Yeah. I think my first tool, I think was, well, I don't know if I technically count this, but when I was about 10, I did this little like after school woodworking course where me being me, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to look so cool using all these cool tools. But no, it was just like little like razor saw we went to a high school and we'd go through their scrap bin and we'd hot glue some pieces together. And it was that I'd say was my first experience woodworking. Otherwise, the first tool I ever got was a router. And I remember I was in Old Navy when I ordered it off of Amazon and I was waiting at the door, so excited for this router to come in.
Router was the first one. Okay.
Yeah.
What I'm getting out of this conversation with you is that the only reason you do woodworking is for the appearances of it. Like
correct. Yes.
I'm pretty sure that the only reason you woodwork is because you think it makes you look cool.
I enjoy it a little bit, but yes, pretty much. So, do I get skills and items and products out of it? Technically, yes.
But what's most important is the
fact way that I look cool.
Yes. Okay.
What would I look cooler doing? Would I look cooler being a doctor, or would like being covered in sawdust?
Okay.
The answer is sawdust.
The answer is sawdust. The answer to that question is sawdust. But I don't know that that's the way that you compare.
They're both equal. Yes.
They're both equal vocations.
They're equal in a way. In a way, they're both equal.
They're both
very necessary.
If you could be a doctor or a woodworker, they're both equal. But which one's going to make you look cooler?
Exactly. That's the ultimate decision.
Okay.
No one needs to worry about paychecks and that. What one makes you look cooler and go with that one.
Well, and I mean, woodworking is clearly more important for the planet and like for humanity.
Absolutely.
Like the social, like the impact on society that woodworkers have is
absolutely. It is 100%. 100% it is.
I mean, there's like anybody can like perform brain surgery
exactly.
or whatever. In fact, like I probably have the stuff in my garage shop right now. If you think about it, really, when you drill right down into it, woodworkers are doctors.
Exactly. We're basically already surgeons.
We make things. We make wood better.
Yes. And we make it do things.
We make it. We fix it.
Yes.
It started out as just a stupid tree. And
just a stupid slab of wood.
And we make it into a Muskoka chair.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Okay,
exactly.
Cool. Yeah. No. These are all very good points, and I hope that everyone listening is taking this seriously because this is a very serious woodworking show. I don't.
Correct.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that's probably about enough for a show. You got anything else you want to talk about?
I don't know. Don't have anything off the top of my head right now.
No, we know this is how this show goes. We just talk until we run out of things to say, and then we turn it off.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty much out of things to say. I appreciate your time today that you've devoted to this wonderful informational programming that we've produced for the world.
Yes.
And anybody else think you might make a fun conversation on the show? You can email me your details and why you think that you would like to be a part of this nonsense at woodandthingsandstuff@gmail.com. And I guess for now, we'll just, what do we say at the end of a show, Lily?
Stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe.
Stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe. We'll see you next time. And then we do like a salute wave thing.
Yes.
And then we walk off screen. All right. Bye, everybody.
Alrighty.
You didn't walk off screen.
I was not about to get off the bed right now. I'm really comfortable.
All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough.